First to our undercover investigation into babysitters and nannies, and when we first set out to investigate the at-home childcare industry, little did we realise how trusting parents can be and just how often their trust is betrayed, as Dean Cassidy reports.
The nightmare nanny from hell.
We found out in the first day of surveillance that we had a smoking gun. We really had a problem person. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned that this person actually got a job as a nanny in the first place.
Pick him up there.
A child abuser, a cunning thief. They're also professional child carers, sent to family homes with the full backing of specialist nanny agencies, employed to weed out the bad ones.
The Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde persona. During the day, the true colours were revealed. We never saw it. We never saw the angelic nanny.
Tonight, Australia's booming at-home childcare industry, from nannies to babysitters. How anyone, it seems, can be sent to your home to care for your children. Even one of our own staff members was sent with glowing recommendations.
She was well practised, and I guess we were trusting sort of people, maybe naive.
When Peter and Katrina Moore interviewed this nanny, she presented perfectly. A mother herself and already vetted by a registered nanny agency, she had all the right paperwork. She'd cleared the Working for Children check and, according to the agency, she had impeccable references and credentials.
Is Marty going to eat his breakfast?
So the Moores, like most parents, believed paying fees to this agency ensured a detailed and vigilant screening process. But it clearly wasn't the case. Just a few months into the job, they discovered their nanny was nothing more than a thief, a drug addict. She was even driving the family car without a licence.
We noticed some money missing. We noticed some jewellery missing. We noticed a video camera missing. Then she'd always be short of money, always have an excuse for not having done something that she should have done. So we started to put two and two together.
We knew we had a thief, but we didn't know we had somebody that was perhaps supporting a drug habit.
The Moores' worst fears were confirmed after they employed private investigator Warren Mallard, the head of Lyonswood investigations. After tailing the nanny for 3 days, he uncovered her shocking double life.
Well, it was a lot worse than their worst fears. They thought they had a thief, and in fact they had a drug addict. They had somebody infected with hepatitis C, and this person was, in fact, taking care of their children, their most precious possession.
Livid. Words can't describe. Anyone who's got kids would know. You've got a 2 or 3 year old and a 1 or 2 year old. And you leave them in the care of somebody that you feel you've vetted properly and you're paying them good money, and they're not as they seem.
With more mothers returning to the workforce, the at-home care industry is booming. It's estimated there are now 250 agencies operating around Australia. But the problem is it's unregulated, so nobody knows just how many backyard and unscrupulous agencies are in the market, as we uncovered. For the past 2 months, Today Tonight has been conducting its own investigation into agencies which supposedly vet babysitters, childcare workers and nannies.
My resume says I worked for a family for the last 2 years as part-time in before and after school care. Previous to that, my only experience was babysitting and a short-term nanny stint in the UK.
We sent our producer to 3 different agencies with false references and resume. All 3 agencies tried to contact the referees, who were never available, but only one agency decided this wasn't good enough. The other 2, after an initial interview, actually lined up meetings with 4 separate families who were desperate to find the right care.
One agency even sent me a certificate saying that I had first aid, I'd been through a child-wise check, I was actually meeting regulations for food handling and hygiene standards.
So qualified, we were offered 2 full-time nannying jobs, caring for children under the age of 6. The youngest, a 6-month-old newborn. One family even had an autistic child with special needs.
That family perhaps saw you because they were feeling desperate. And it's wrong that agencies will put families in that position where they'll send someone who hasn't been properly screened or isn't qualified.
Trish Noakes runs Just for Kids, the only agency who decided our reference and referees weren't up to scratch.
I think the other agencies, they put themselves at risk, they put the nannies at risk, but most importantly, they put the children at risk.
Like many in the industry, Trish Noakes believes it's time the federal government regulated childcare. Introducing holiday pay, superannuation and leave entitlements would attract a better calibre of applicants and offer more protection for parents, as would compulsory qualifications and police checks.
In this case, I think that the Department of Fair Trading ought to be investigating this agency very, very carefully.
As for the nanny supposedly caring for the Moore's children, she was convicted of theft but walked away from the courts with a slap on the wrist and a $100 fine. Who's to say she's not at it again?
The only saving grace was she didn't hit or abuse the children that we know of, and just the rest of the circumstances, we just feel totally ripped off, and she's a bottom feeder, basically.
Ripped off is certainly an understatement. Adine Cassidy reporting there, and the producer was Cherie Gibson. And we'd like to hear about